Welcome to the Ramayan, Stories of Dharm and Devotion. I'm Sandeep, and in this podcast, we'll journey together through the timeless epic of Valmiki's Ramayan, filled with stories of honor, sacrifice, devotion, and righteousness. While our narrative is primarily rooted in Valmiki's version, we also incorporate stories from other Indian texts and versions of the Ramayan to offer a wholesome experience of this eternal tale. Although it's rooted in Indian culture, the Ramayan offers universal lessons that resonate globally. The epic addresses universal themes such as the triumph of good over evil, loyalty, the struggles of the righteous, family duties, and the power of compassion. These values transcend cultural and religious boundaries, making the Ramayan relevant to everyone globally. Ramayan, as originally written by Valmiki, is divided into 7 kandas containing 2,400 verses and 500 sargas or chapters. Now, before diving into the story of the Ramayan, it is essential to understand the story of its creator, Maharshi Valmiki. Who was Valmiki? How did he become a sage? And how did he compose this great epic? Let us delve into this.
You might be surprised to learn that Valmiki started his life as a bandit. His real name was Ratnakar. Born into a poor family, circumstances forced him into a life of crime. He would hide in forests, ambush travelers, and rob them, believing that all of it was necessary to provide for his family. However, his life took a complete turn when he met Narad Muni. Narad Muni, known for his devotion, wisdom, and calm demeanor, was passing through the forest where Ratnakar lived. Ratnakar stopped him and attempted to rob him. Narad Muni, undeterred and smiling, asked, "My child, why do you do all this?" Ratnakar replied, "I do all this for my family, to feed and care for them." Narad then posed a thought-provoking question. "Will your family share the burden of your sins?" This question puzzled Ratnakar. He confidently said, "Of course, I do everything for them, so they will definitely share in my sins too." Narad suggested, "Go and ask them. I will wait for you here." Ratnakar quickly left Narad Muni near to a tree and rushed home, confident that his family would stand by him. As soon as he stepped inside the house, his voice echoed with urgency. "Ratnakar, listen, I have a question for all of you. Everything I do for you, for your well-being, to feed you, to keep you safe. It's all for your benefit." His family looked at him with a mix of surprise and confusion. "Ratnakar, so, will you share the burden of my sins? Every wrong I've committed has been for you. Will you take responsibility alongside me?" After a few moments of silence, his wife finally spoke. "We are here to share life with you. But your actions, they're your own. We cannot share them." Hearing this, Ratnakar's expression began to change. Still hoping for support, he turned to his children. "Ratnakar, my son, my daughter, everything I do for you. Will you share in my deeds and their consequences?" The children innocently looked at each other. Finally, his eldest son replied, "Father, you provide us with food and protection. But as for your sins, those are yours. We don't think we can share them with you." Listening to this, Ratnakar's elderly mother, who was sitting nearby, spoke gently. "My son, every individual bears the weight of their own actions. The consequences of deeds belong solely to the one who performs them. We never asked you to do all this." Ratnakar was left stunned. He had believed that his family, whom he considered the foundation of his life, would share the burden of his actions. But their unanimous response shattered his faith entirely. In anger and despair, Ratnakar exclaimed, "I have taken so many risks for you. I've put my life on the line. And now you say you won't stand with me?" His wife calmly replied, "What you did was your choice. We never asked you to do any of it. The burden of sin can only be carried by the one who commits it." This conversation became a turning point in Ratnakar's life. His faith, his world, was shaken to its core. Without saying another word, he left his home, but his heart was filled with questions and sorrow. The realization struck him like a deep wound. The anger within him was replaced by an overwhelming emptiness. Silently, he walked away from his home, carrying the heavy burden of unanswered questions and profound sadness. He returned to the spot where Narad Muni was waiting for him. His face now bore the weight of the greatest question of his life. If even my family will not stand by me, who will bear the burden of my actions? This moment marked the greatest turning point in Ratnakar's life. His world was about to change. Heartbroken, Ratnakar fell at Narad Muni's feet and, weeping, said, "Please show me the path to liberation from this sinful life." When Narad Muni revealed the truth about the consequences of Ratnakar's actions, his heart shattered. Realizing that his life of crime had led only to pain and isolation, he sought redemption. Desperate for a way out of his sinful life, Ratnakar fell at Narad's feet and begged, "Please guide me, O sage. Show me the path to free myself from these sins and live a life of meaning." Narad, comforting him, said, "My child, there is a way. But it requires your complete dedication. Sit here and meditate, chanting the word Mara." The word Mara, meaning death, symbolized the end of Ratnakar's sinful past. But before beginning his penance, Ratnakar decided to return home and inform his family about his decision. As Ratnakar entered his home, his family sensed a change in him. They looked at him with concern as he began to speak. "Ratnakar, I have made a decision. My actions, my life, have been wrong. I thought I was protecting and providing for you by walking a dark path, but I was wrong. My sins are mine alone, and I must atone for them." His wife, startled, asked, "What are you saying? What will happen to us if you leave?" "Ratnakar, I met a great sage, Narad Muni, who made me see the truth. He showed me that the path I've been on will only lead to destruction, for me and for you. I cannot continue this way. I must seek redemption, not just for myself, but for all of us." His eldest son, with tearful eyes, said, "Father, will you leave us behind?" Ratnakar knelt and held his son close. "I am not abandoning you. What I am doing is for your future, for all our futures. If I continue this life, it will only bring ruin. But if I walk the path of righteousness, I can find peace and maybe even bring blessings to our family." His wife, struggling to hold back her tears, finally spoke. "I have always feared for your life and the life you chose. If this path leads you to peace, then I will not stand in your way. But promise me that you will not forget us." "Ratnakar, I promise. You are my world, and I do this for you. But I must first cleanse myself of the weight I carry." His mother, who had been silent, placed her hand on his shoulder. "My son, you have my blessings. It is never too late to walk the path of truth. If the divine has called you, then you must follow. We will miss you, but we will also pray for your success." Though his family was saddened by his decision, they understood its significance and found solace in the fact that Ratnakar was following a divine direction. Their sorrow was mixed with hope for his transformation and eventual return. With his family's reluctant but heartfelt support, Ratnakar returned to Narad. He said, "O sage, I am ready. I have left my past behind and have my family's blessings to move forward. Please guide me further." Narad smiled, sensing Ratnakar's sincerity. "Sit here, my child. As I said earlier, meditate and chant the word Mara. Focus all your energy on this chant and let it lead you away from darkness and toward light." Ratnakar embraced this guidance wholeheartedly and retreated deep into the forest to meditate in solitude. Sitting under a tree, he began chanting Mara repeatedly. Over time, the word transformed into Ram. This linguistic and spiritual shift symbolized the death of his sinful past and the awakening of a pure, virtuous self. Ratnakar's journey of redemption had begun, and his family, while missing him, found comfort in knowing that he was on a path of divine purpose. Over time, as he continued his penance, the word Mara transformed into Ram. This change was not just in his words, but also in his heart. It marked the purification of his soul and the awakening of compassion and awareness within him. Ratnakar became so absorbed in his meditation that his body remained motionless for years. Termites built a massive mound, or Valmika, around him. In Sanskrit, this mound is known as Valmiki. His penance was so intense that plants grew around his body, vines wrapped themselves around him, and birds nested in his hair and beard. During this time, Ratnakar's focus was solely on the divine. His thoughts revolved around the ultimate truth. Everything is Brahman. The entire universe is Brahman. Everything that moves, halts, and perishes is Brahman. This deep meditation and contemplation of Brahman became the center of his life. Years later, when his penance was complete, Ratnakar emerged from the termite mound. He was no longer the same man. His face radiated divine light, and his mind had been completely purified. In this transformed state, Ratnakar was reborn. He was no longer Ratnakar. He had become Valmiki, the sage born from the termite mound. This name symbolized his penance and the beginning of a new chapter in his life. Valmiki's transformation teaches us that change is possible at any moment in life. No matter how dark the past may be, sincere penance, devotion, and contemplation of the divine can purify the soul. His story demonstrates that even a person immersed in the darkness of sin can, through steadfast effort and meditation, become a source of inspiration for humanity. Valmiki, once known as Ratnakar, became a sage destined to gift the world the unparalleled epic of the Ramayan. His journey is not just one of transformation, but also a remarkable example of devotion, penance, and self-purification. Even after becoming a sage, Valmiki's journey did not end. Through his meditation and devotion, he began to understand the depths of life and the universe. One day, as he meditated on the banks of the serene Thamasa river, he witnessed a beautiful scene. A pair of conch birds singing melodiously and dancing in love. Their harmonious song filled Valmiki's heart with joy and peace. Suddenly, a hunter shot one of the birds with an arrow, killing it instantly. The surviving bird cried out in grief, mourning its lost companion. This act of cruelty deeply moved Valmiki, filling his heart with sorrow and righteous anger. Overwhelmed by emotion, a verse spontaneously emerged from his lips. "O hunter, may you never find peace, for you have killed a creature in love." This verse was not merely an expression of anger, but became the first shlok, verse, of Sanskrit poetry. It marked the birth of the poetic form that would later be used in the Ramayan. It appears the universe itself had chosen Valmiki to narrate Ram's divine story. At this pivotal moment, Narad Muni visited Valmiki again. He could sense the divine energy surrounding the sage and understood that Valmiki's transformation was now complete. Valmiki, now filled with curiosity, asked Narad, "O sage, is there anyone on this earth who embodies all virtues, courage, truth, compassion, and humility? Is there such a person?" Narad smiled and replied, "Yes, such a person exists. His name is Ram, the prince of Ayodhya and the son of King Dashrath. But he is not just an ordinary man, he is an incarnation of Vishnu, who has descended to restore balance and vanquish evil." Narad then narrated the life of Ram, explaining how he upheld his father's promise by accepting 14 years of exile. During this time, Ram protected sages in the forest, forged meaningful friendships, and ultimately defeated the demon king Ravan to rescue his wife, Sita. Inspired by Narad's narration, Valmiki was deeply moved. He resolved to immortalize Ram's life in the form of an epic. He decided to write a story that would not only describe the life of Ram, but also serve as a guide for humanity, teaching the values of Dharm, devotion, and righteousness. Thus began Valmiki's journey as the composer of the Ramayan, an epic that continues to inspire and guide humanity even today. As Valmiki resolved to undertake the monumental task of composing the Ramayana, he realized the immense challenge that lay ahead. The sheer magnitude of narrating the life of Ram, an incarnation of divinity, felt overwhelming. At that moment, Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe, appeared before him, radiating a divine aura that sanctified the entire atmosphere. Brahma spoke with a calm and assuring tone, "Valmiki, this task has been destined for you. I grant you divine vision, enabling you to witness every event of Ram's life as it occurred. You must write this epic with truth and unwavering devotion." Humbled by this blessing, Valmiki bowed his head in reverence and said, "O Lord, with your grace, I will dedicate myself fully to this sacred task." Brahma continued, "Your narrative will not be just a story. It will symbolize dharm, truth, and love, serving as a guide for humanity for generations to come." With Brahma's blessing, Valmiki began composing the Ramayana. Through the divine vision bestowed upon him, he witnessed every moment of Ram's life as though it were unfolding before his eyes. He chronicled Ram's miraculous birth, his virtuous childhood, the trials of his exile, the battles with demons, the search for Sita, and ultimately his triumphant return to Ayodhya. Every event, from joyous moments to struggles, emerged through Valmiki's words with a divine brilliance. As Valmiki completed the account of Ram's return to Ayodhya and his coronation, he found himself at a crossroads. Reflecting on his work, he thought, "I have written everything I have seen and known. But what comes next? Does Ram's story truly end here? If not, how should I proceed?" This question troubled Valmiki deeply. He wondered if his epic was complete, or if there were more chapters of Ram's life yet to unfold. Sensing Valmiki's confusion, Lord Brahma appeared before him once again, his divine presence calming the sage's restless thoughts. Brahma said, "Valmiki, Ram's life does not end here. His journey continues even after his return to Ayodhya. Every event that follows will unfold before your eyes. You are not merely a writer of Ram's story, you are destined to be a part of it. In time, your role in this divine narrative will be revealed." With humility, Valmiki asked, "O Lord, can you share with me what happens next in Ram's life?" Brahma smiled and replied, "My child, you will have to wait. The events will reveal themselves in due course. You will also play a significant role in the later chapters of this epic." Hearing Brahma's words, Valmiki bowed his head in acceptance. "I will follow your guidance, O Lord," he said. "With your blessings, I will remain steadfast in my devotion to this divine task." Valmiki now understood that he was not just a narrator, but an integral part of the divine mission to preserve and share Ram's legacy. His composition of the Ramayana became more than a literary work. It was a sacred act of devotion, destined to guide humanity on the path of righteousness for eternity.
In our next episode, we will explore the longing of King Dashrath for children and the divine plan that led to the miraculous birth of Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughan. We will see how the gods intervened to bring about the birth of these extraordinary princes, each destined for greatness. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Please share the podcast with friends and family so that we can spread the glorious life of Ram and how Dharm guides us at all phases of our life. While we may not know exactly what happened, this eternal story of the Ramayana serves as a guide for how we conduct ourselves in our day-to-day lives. We have tried to create a story as close as possible to the ancient texts, scriptures, and writings of Valmiki's Ramayana. Until then, may the light of Dharm guide your path.